investigated my son's accident.
So he was at the accident?
Yes.
When it happened? Okay.
Yes. And he said the first thing we do is put in their driver's license. And I said, well, what comes up? And he says, only their information. I said, so when you put in David's driver's license, nothing with my name came up. And he said, no. And so I said to him, I said, why don't we put next to kin on the driver's license? And he said, Carmela, that is an excellent idea. Well, at the time, Tom was working at Senator Faber's office. He had also worked as a dispatch for the sheriff department. So he worked he was an aide at Senator Faber's office.
Okay, Tom's an aide, was an aide or is an aide?
Yes, he was. I know he's not at Senator Faber's office anymore.
Okay.
And he had worked at a dispatch for a sheriff department for 3 years. So as soon as I said that to him, he was like, Carmela, I am putting a research on it right now. He said, I know what it takes to find people. He says, sometimes it takes 2 days, sometimes 3 days, sometimes 12 hours. He said, it takes forever to find the next of kin. And so he immediately put the research department on it, and the bill passed exactly 1 year from the day I started.
And how many people voted for it?
All of them.
It was 100%. All 33 senators.
Everybody in the House also.
100% of the House.
100%.
Wow.
There was not one, none of them, not any of them, that said nay to any of it.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to cut to a break real quick here in the next couple of seconds. And then we're going to bring on some other people and we'll talk some more about this. We're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll have Sergeant Hickey join us. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
The Urbana Leader is sponsored in part by the Depot Coffee House, a gathering place for locals, a resting place for bicyclists, and a haven for history and railroad buffs. Located 6 blocks west of Monument Square on Miami Street in Urbana, the coffee house can be found in a refurbished 1890s train station on the Simon-Kenton Bike Trail. Free Wi-Fi, fresh baked goods, local artwork, and good conversation can be found every day of the week at The Depot from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Welcome back to Urbana Leader, and Sergeant Hickey has joined us. Excuse me. From all accounts, he's someone who has gone beyond the call of duty. Welcome, Sergeant Hickey. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It's Carl, right?
Yes.
Hey, I remembered. Now, just real quick, I want to find out, when did you hear from Carmela?
About 6 months after her son's crash, I think it was. About 6 months, yeah.
And I wanted to get, your son passed on what day?
Monday.
On a Monday?
On a Monday,
Okay.
August 7th.
August 7th, okay. And so about 6 months later she called you. And what did she say?
You could tell that she was very guarded as far as what she was wanting to talk to me about. And I had been told that she wanted to complain about how she was notified of her son's death. Mm-hmm. So I was very guarded and kind of defensive also because I thought, you know, I had done everything I could to do the right things as far as getting notifications out there and things like that. So we were both kind of guarded at first, and she took her time and asked me a lot of questions about how difficult it is for law enforcement to find the next of kin, family members after a serious injury or fatal crash. And when I started explaining to her things that I go through to try and do the right thing and try to make the right phone calls or make the appearances in person, she then started to realize, you know, hey, this isn't as easy as she thought it would be, and realized we had a lot of hurdles that we have to go through just on being on the side of the road trying to figure out who to contact.
You know, and when I was doing a little research on here, and I had read a few stories from way back, and there were so few people living in Ohio at the time, you know, and in towns like Mechanicsburg and even in Columbus, a lot of people knew each other. Mm-hmm. You know, so if there was an accident, a lot of people knew who the next of kin was already. Mm-hmm. And so then And that's partly where that, we need to call his mom and dad as quickly as possible comes to our first thought. But now that we've as a state we've grown, and a lot of times we don't know each other, and you never know what part of the state you're going to be in, or if maybe even in or out of the state, and so they may not know you, so that becomes increasingly more difficult. I'm sure if I were in an accident here in Urbana, somebody would know who to call. They would know who I was and know that they needed to call somebody. But when you're, traveling outside of the state, or even outside of your, basically your home group, your home area, people may not know who you are.
Well, plus in modern times, families are so dynamic now.
Right, they move around.
Yeah, different situations. Everyone has different family situations where maybe your parents wouldn't be the best person to in some family situation. Maybe it's an uncle, an aunt, grandparent, things like that. So with this bill and the way it's set up, you can select who you want to be notified, and that helps us know that your family dynamic, that you want this person notified and not this person.
Okay. And now, did you guys encounter any obstacles to this bill? Did anybody go, you don't want to do this? This is going to be hard?
No, she's got a lot of support from the state legislature and did work that way, and I kind of helped on the law enforcement side, and everyone in the law enforcement side that I talked to about this just kind of looked at me like I did that day and said, "That's a great idea. Why didn't we
had
think
an
of it?"
epiphany?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It was one of those
idea.
very simple things that should have been obvious to people, but it isn't until someone like Carmela suggests it, and now and it just blossomed from there. So there was no resistance at all.
And when I was talking to my own pastor, Father Tim, I asked him about it, and that was one of the things that he always tried to stress. When something bad happens, there's for every door that closes, a window opens. And this is your window.
I believe it is.
I really do.
Because even as I was working on this, and I would start getting very stressed, or I would just get so tired, and it was like, I don't feel like it's going fast enough, or it's going here or there, and I would just stop. And then I would look at David's picture, and he'd say, "Mom, you can't give up. You cannot give up." And
this is his picture right here?
Yes, one of them, yes.
Good looking kid.
Thank you.
Very good looking kid.
And then I would say, what if the tables were turned? What if they told David this way? How would he handle something like that? And then there I was again, right on the phones. I'd be calling I called all of our representatives on the Senate and on the House side. I emailed every single one of them. And even after the bill was passed, I have called 2 of the sheriff counties already knew. We have 88 counties altogether. I have called all 86 counties of our sheriff department because I wanted to make sure that every one of them knew that this bill was in effect and what it was going to do to help them, so they would know that there is this, that they will be able to contact somebody if it's on their driver's license.
So you call him about 6 months later, and then how long did it take to get the bill written?
November. I think the bill was written in December or January.
Okay, and then Governor Strickland signs it.
May 1st.
May 1st.
But the day I called him was on a Wednesday, or he called me back on a Wednesday. As soon as we hung up the phone, I called Senator Faber, and the bill passed exactly 1 year from the day I called Senator Faber's office. The bill was passed, and then Governor Strickland signed it May 1st. So the bill passed in April.
And then in September, they finally got the database set up on the website. Now, what is the website?
It's www.ohiobmv.com.
So www.ohiobmv.com.
Correct.
All right. So I went to the site and